Hello, welcome. I'm Hannah, and today I guess we're talking about dupes. I don't usually use the word dupe because I feel like people use it in different ways. I guess if someone was threatening my eyeshadow and told me I had to define dupes, I would say I think of it as being like literally a duplicate. Every single quality is the same, but I don't think that looking at makeup from that perspective is always the most helpful because sometimes shadows can give a similar effect on the eye, or if they shift slightly differently, do you really need both of them? I also find that if it's a color that I really like, I might be okay with more similar shadows than I would be if I don't like the color as much. So for today, I gathered together a bunch of shadows that I have that I feel like are really similar. Some you might call dupes and others might not call dupes. Some maybe no one would call dupes, but to me, they give me a similar effect and I don't need both of them. There's some that I have two of and I'm pretty hellbent on only keeping one. There's some others that I was kind of just like looking through my collection and seeing what stood out, and I grabbed several. I don't really know how many I'm going to end up keeping of the ones that I have several similar ones, but I'm excited to see. This is all part of my quest to narrow down my collection, and especially looking at the shadows that I have gathered, I'm like, there's no reason for me to have 5 that would do a similar effect on my eye that I probably don't use that much anyway. So without further ado, I think we should switch over to my hands and get into it. Okay, so here are all the shadows that I gathered. I kept grabbing out more, so we're past the point of what fits into this one palette, but that excites me that I just like have this chance to look at these really specific shades and see, do I really need all of these? I think we should just dive in, and I think I want to start with the shadow that made me think of this video concept, which is Shine by SD Dangerous. I wore this the other day. I posted a little video on my stories on Instagram, and I really liked how it looked. And it reminded me of Terra Moon's Lightspeed, which is the shadow that I've had for, I can't remember, I want to say a year? Because I feel like I didn't buy it in 2023. Maybe I did. I don't know. I can't remember. Either way, I never liked Lightspeed as much as I thought I would. I felt like it was too pigmented for my inner corner, and on my lid it was kind of just like not enough, or like not quite my particular shade of yellow. Dangerous, I bought thinking it would be a little bit more green. It's really not, but that's okay, and I liked how it looked on my lid, and I don't know. So it sounds like I'm already leaning towards one answer, which I am for some of them, but I thought it would be good to like compare it one last time and just see like how close they are. Okay, so they are similar. They both are like yellow base with a shift. Lightspeed from Terra Moons is definitely more icy, and I think it's beautiful looking at it. Like looking at the swatch, I see why I bought it, but I think that my experience just shows me that I don't need both of them. I know for sure I enjoy Dangerous on my lid, and I know for sure I've struggled with Lightspeed, so yeah, the first winner is Dangerous, and Lightspeed I'm gonna declutter. I want to say I probably won't have that much to say about all of them, but I mean, who knows? Let's grab into these oranges next. These are ones that are very much not dupes. I don't think anyone would call them dupes, but this falls into that category, like I was saying, that they give me the same effect on the lid. And when it comes to this particular color, I don't need slightly different of the similar effect because I don't wear bright oranges that much. So this one, Terra Moon's Arcturus. I swatched this when I first got it. I think it's so incredibly gorgeous, and as someone who's not that much of an orange lover, this is like such a jewel in my collection. Definitely one of my favorite oranges. Definitely an orange that I'm excited about. This shadow is from Pretties for Your Face. It's Elves. I got this one last holiday season, and I was impressed with it when I tried it out and I swatched it. And one of the reasons is it is unique in my collection. It is a unique shadow. It has a lot of little glitter in it, but these two are similar. Oh, it's funny. I wiped off the yellows and I'm like, oh, I could have left them. I think Elves is a really nice shadow, especially considering how cheap the Pretties for Your Face price point is. They often have those sales. You can get shadows for like $2, and Arcturus is like $18, I think, and rarely goes on sale. So I would say if you're not an orange lover, you just want like an orange to cover the bases in your collection, it might be more worth it to you to get elves. But me, I have both of them, and Arcturus sings to me. Oh, you can see how similar the base color is too. And elves just like doesn't excite me as much. So keeping Arcturus, decluttering elves. This is one that I think people do call a dupe, and I feel like I knew that before I was ordering, but like I forgot or something, or I saw a picture and it looked different than I thought I could do with the shade I already had. I don't know. What I'm talking about is Divina Fairy Fire and Shine by SD Rich Bliss. I've had Fairy Fire for a while now, and I love it. I think of it fondly. I use it all the time. It's kind of like my go-to green inner corner, but I know it also looks really lovely all over the lid. Rich Bliss does exactly the same thing. You could see it looks the same in the pan. We'll also swatch it out, and I think it's going to look exactly the same in the swatch. I think the biggest difference between these is that the Divina formula is a little bit smoother. This is like a very soft to the touch shadow, and the Shine by SD formula is a little bit drier. So I think I can tell looking at it, almost like the Divina goes a little bit more yellow in the base, and the Shine by SD goes a little bit mustard in the base, but they're both pretty much the same. I think anyone would call these dupes. And really, if one got destroyed and I only had the other, I would be okay with it either way. But I like the smoothness of the Divina formula, and I just have such like a positive connotation in my mind. Rich Bliss has always just given me the feeling of like, oh yeah, this is my dupe for Fairy Fire. Like Fairy Fire feels like the original, and Rich Bliss feels like the dupe. So I'm gonna declutter Rich Bliss. Another one that I think people call a dupe, Cleona Verte and Terra Moon's Big Bang. I've had a bunch of greens from Terra Moon's for a while. I think I bought them in the same purchase in like 2021, and I just always felt like I couldn't get my head wrapped around those greens, and I'm slowly getting to it. I feel like I'm making progress. Actually, a couple of those greens in question are in this video, and some of them like really aren't green. But I don't know if I heard someone say it or what, that Verte is a dupe for Big Bang, and in practice, I've realized I very much agree, with one difference. So I do think Verte is nice, and I think if someone wants like a smoother formula that's more like glossy looking, Verte might be the shadow for them. I also think that if this was like my perfect color story, if this was like the pinky purple in my dreams, I'd probably want to keep both of them. I'm not opposed to that. But because I don't wear this very much, I want to keep Big Bang because on the eyes it looks a little bit more sparkly. I don't know if you can really see that from the swatch, but I can see that in my eyes. But wow, this looks like two swatches of the same thing, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm going to keep Big Bang and declutter Cleona Verte. The next two I think of as like formula dupes. These are both from Terra Moon. So I have Prism Skies up top and Shattered Stars down here. I've had Shattered Stars for longer, and it's not my favorite shadow. It's much more of like a smooth, like I want to say hard pan, but like packed down formula compared to so many of their other shadows that you really feel the texture coming up on your finger. And I should have known that before I bought Prism Skies, because people were saying it's like Shattered Stars, but I thought the swatches looked so pretty and I bought it anyway, and I don't wear either of them that much. So this one, Shattered Stars, is very pretty. You can see like a bluishness to it, purpleness to it, kind of like an iron gray to it. And I found on the eyes, it has like a very unique kind of grungy look, but not like grungy in the color story that I would normally associate grungy with. It's just kind of like dulled down, grayed down versions of its colors, but like that purple base is still very pretty and vibrant. So Prism Skies, I haven't used this one in a while, and this one I'd say even feels a little bit more packed down than Shattered Stars does. These are very similar. Yeah, I'd say if anything, the biggest difference I see right now is that Prism Skies is a little bit deeper purple in the base, but these are actually even more similar than I remembered. So I have gotten looks with Shattered Stars that I've enjoyed, and Prism Skies I've always just felt kind of about, so I am going to declutter Prism Skies and keep Shattered Stars. I am going to move these ones out of the way to make a little room for the next bunch, but I think it's so funny to see, like, the parallel between the top and the bottom line. I definitely don't realize, like, how much overlap I have, especially of colors I don't use that much. I'd say with the exception of Fairy Fire, I've probably used all of these shades, like, under 3 times each, you know? So that's very funny, and looking at these two lines just feels very satisfying to me. Okay, let's tackle this mountain of light blues. I don't really know how I'm gonna feel about these. This is kind of a category that as I was grabbing it out, I was like, am I really gonna commit to like decluttering a bunch of them? Only keeping one? I really don't know. I started with Terra Moon's Half Moon when I was grabbing these out, and I believe the other ones are Luxie. We have Luxie Snow Cone, which I believe swatches a lot more green than it looks. We have Luxie Electric Lemonade, which I think of very fondly. I have Divina Twinkle Toots. This was kind of a later edition that I grabbed out because it does feel like in the same family, and it has a little bit of like the tealness in a way that Half Moon does. It might be the best comparison, not sure. And then we have Blue Raz, also from Luxie. And all of these shadows, I love the tone of them. Twinkle Toots is definitely my favorite. This is like one of my favorite shadows in my collection. And the other 4, I look at them fondly, but I think because I have so much in this category, I don't really have one that I think to reach for. This one does feel really nice in the formula, really sparkly. I like that. So this is Terra Moon's Half Moon. And then Snow Cone from Luxie. This is one I've had for a while. I could definitely see the mintness in there. I don't know if it's coming up on the camera, but it looks very mint. The formula of it looks a lot more smooth though compared to the Terra Moon's one. And then Electric Lemonade. This one's also very sparkly. This one is pretty similar to Half Moon, maybe like a little bit more pigmented, a little bit more bluish. And let me switch the order. I'm going to swatch the other Luxie one next just to keep them together. This is Luxie Blue Raz, a newer shade. That one's very similar to Electric Lemonade. And then finally, Twinkle Toots, my personal fave. Yeah, I think Twinkle Toots is definitely the closest to Half Moon. I think some would even call it a dupe. Okay, I could definitely make some progress in here. I think knowing how close Twinkle Toots is to Half Moon makes me feel like I can declutter Half Moon. I don't need 2 of the same thing. I think the most interesting thing about this is that I think of Half Moon as an inner corner shade, and I don't think of Twinkle Toots like this, but I think this means that I can use Twinkle Toots in my inner corner. So, cool. Gonna declutter Half Moon. Snow Cone, I don't reach for it. I do think it's a nice shadow, but the more smooth finish is a little bit of a deterrent. I do see, like, I think it's the most shifty of all these. I'm seeing some mint and pink in my eye, but I have so many beautiful shades and I can't imagine wearing this all over my eyes. So I'm gonna declutter Snow Cone also. And then these two are very similar, and I think either one would do the job, but I think I am gonna pick Electric Lemonade because I think of this one fondly, and Blue Raz, wrong pile. Blue Raz, I don't really think of much at all. So I think those 3 I can declutter, and then these 2 are the ones I'm gonna keep. That's really satisfying. Let's cleanse the palette with the last small category. We have Give Me Glow Xenon, and this is B-Day Girl from Electrum Cosmetics, although it's labeled Mirage. I did an eye swatching video, I mentioned that, I realized then that it wasn't labeled correctly. And then this was in a random palette recently. Was it July or was it June? Using it, it just has a very deep base. And I don't tend to reach for shadows that have that deep of a base. I think these are considered shift dupes, and I think I might have swatched them next to each other. Ooh, that's so pretty. I never reach for this because of the big pan, and I feel like once my big pan collection is smaller, I'll just be able to like integrate that with my other shadows. So that is Xenon, absolutely gorgeous. It's a crime I don't wear it more. And then this is also gorgeous, B-Day Girl from Electrum. Yeah, very similar. I think if anything, the Electrum one might look a little bit more intense, but I think that's because the light shimmer pigments are like popping off of a darker base, so there's more contrast. I think Xenon's definitely the one for me because I'm more likely to wear a shadow with less of a base. So I'm gonna keep Xenon, declutter, B-Day girl. Okay, let's do this category next. I think I mentioned in my last eyeshadow declutter that I needed to really think about this type of color. These are like the mishmashy teals, like the blue-brown pigments, and I might even have more than this, but as I was going through my collection, these are the ones that stood out to me, and I don't tend to wear this color very much, but I have some very positive feelings about some of them, some which are pictured here. I'm going to start with this one. This is a Terra Moon shade called Perseus, and this was part of the Urban Outfitters quad that they had a while ago. I did an eye swatch video, I think in 2021, about it. So it hasn't been around for a while, but they were really lovely shadows, and this was one of them. And I remember last time I used this, it felt so dark on my lid. And I think now you can see how deep that brown base is. It's a really pretty color, really pretty flip, but I know from experience that I didn't like it last time I used it, and because I remember not enjoying it, I never reached for it. So I'm curious to see how this compares to the others. This is Gifts Galore from Give Me Glow. This, a large pan. I don't reach for it very much. The formula feels so nice. It's so like silky in the pan, but it doesn't come up like super textured or anything. But swatching it, ooh, I don't know. It looks like a more dulled down version of Perseus. It almost feels like an older formula than Perseus does. Definitely similar. I'm glad I'm swatching them next to each other, but yeah, I think Perseus is prettier. Base looks redder, but they look equally dark. This is Ink Defense from Menagerie. This was from one of their palettes. I can't remember the name of it, but it was when they still released singles, and I purchased that. So that's pretty. I think the base of this one does look a little brighter, a little bit more berry. So I think this is in the front of the running thus far. And then Messier from Divina. I don't really think of this as being in the same category. Looking at it in the pan, I'm like, it's entirely the same category as those. I love the feel of this formula. It's like very smooth, but you can still feel the texture coming up. And it's very sparkly. So that actually is pretty similar to Ink Defense, maybe a tad deeper, but I still don't think it's as deep as those two. Interesting, but I feel like you can see the glossiness in here. Maybe it's just like the level of sparkle, but to me it looks very glossy. And then finally, Cosmic Dancer from Terra Moons. This was one that I grouped in my mind of like the greens I didn't understand. My camera cut me off, but I think I was saying certainly not a green, very teal, but I think it might fit the parameters of what this category kind of like means to me. And I wore it recently, posted a video on my story, really pretty. Ooh, I can see off the bat it's so much lighter than the others. Huh. Yeah, it definitely has like the same like teal flip to it. Very interesting. I definitely want to keep Cosmic Dancer. I definitely want to keep Messier. And I think I'm just deciding if I want to keep Ink Defense or not. It is different. I think I am going to keep those three and declutter these two, Perseus and Gifts Galore. But Ink Defense could be on the cutting board in the future if I still feel like I'm not using it. Okay, let's do these greens and leave this like pinky mess for the grand finale. So this group really stems from Bank from Glaminatrix, which I've had for a while. I think it's a really pretty shade, but it's like a very basic shimmer formula. Sometimes I do like that, but I just wanted to see it today next to these other shadows to decide if it really is worth keeping when I have similar shades in really nice formulas. So Bank. This feels very much like a 2016 metallic. You know, the type of metallic that you try for the first time and you're like, wow. It's nothing like that special, but like the particular color also does speak to me, which maybe is also why I have those others and probably more I'm not thinking of. I also grabbed out Celesta from Divina, which is a shade that I love. And this might be the answer to it because it has that same type of green in it, but it also has that like brownie gold base. It's so pretty. I also have Estate from Cleona, which came out last summer, and I've been a little bit unsure about this one Since this one translates like a little bit more like an antique gold to green. Definitely shifty, definitely very different. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do in this category. And then I also pulled out Titan from Terra Moons, which is one of their gray-based multichromes. And I think this one might be a little bit more like sheer. I could be wrong though, let's see. Oh, that's pretty. This one might be the most similar to Bink, but it has more like gold in it. You know, these are much more different than I thought they'd be, and I don't think I'm ready to make a decision. So I think I'm going to keep all four for now, but I'll definitely put a little update on the screen if I change my mind before I put this up. I might challenge myself to wear all these during the next week or so, because I feel like Bink is on the cutting board, and or chopping block, is that what people say? I'm just making up my own phrases. And Estate is a little bit on that same chopping block. These two are definitely safe, but I just don't know. I feel like I'm not qualified to make a decision right now. So I am going to keep the four. I think I'm finally throwing off my balance. Up until this, I was at 11 kept and 11 decluttered. Okay, this final category kind of started with Roseline from Leona, which I've had for a while and I've never loved, but like every time I swatch it out, it just seems like too nice to declutter. But then when I was looking through my collection, I feel like it's so similar to so many other shadows, and it feels a little ridiculous to have all of these. So let's start with Roseline. It's pretty, but it's not incredibly shifty. I don't think I would wear it all over my eye. I think it would be more of like an accent or like a deepening color, but I might prefer one of the others for it because I feel like this just kind of like weighs down my Cleona collection because I don't like it as much as I like so many of my others. This one is Anastasia from Give Me Glow. As I said, I would love to reduce the number of large pans I have, and I never reached for that one anyway, but it is pretty. It's like a little bit more like silvery than Roseline is. The next two are Terra Moons. This one is Deimos, which is really pretty to wear all over my lid. Oh, I was expecting this to be a lot lighter, but it's not. It's just like way more sparkly. Interesting. It's a really similar color to Anastasia. And then this pink is so pretty. This is Aries. This was also from that Urban Outfitters quad a while ago. And this one is more of that like jelly tone that Roseline is. But I actually expected this one to be a little bit more sparkly than it is. I would have thought the formula would be more like Deimos. Has a nice sheen to it though. This is ColourPop Pinky Promise. I've had this for so long, and I think of this as like a good deepening shadow, but I don't tend to reach for it. This is more of like a satin finish, and I'd say it's like a hair darker than Aries and Roseline. This one's from Luxie, Crimson Rose. I think this is from the Butterfly Kisses collection a while ago. Oh, and this one's a pretty unimpressive formula from that swatch. More of the color of this. I feel like there's really two different color stories that have emerged. The more like grayed down mauves and the more like berry mauves. And then the final one might be a little bit more of a wild card, but I thought this is the kind of thing that's like good to show myself in these situations, to be like, this is so much prettier than the rest of them, you know? This is Cygnus from Divina. I always thought of this as more like a red, and then I heard someone call it a hot pink, so I started thinking of it that way, but it definitely also has like a lot of like bronzy orange to it, a lot brighter than the others. Okay, I have pondered for a moment and made a decision. There definitely is the two color stories. I'd say Cygnus is part of that more berry one, as well as Pinky Promise, Deimos, and Roseline. And I think the only one from that color story I'm going to keep, oh, it's kind of out of frame, whoops, is Cygnus. Which, like, of course, like the most statement-making one. You know, I feel like with the others, me telling myself I could deepen up a look with it is me kind of like making an excuse for keeping it. Would I buy this shadow to deepen up with? No. And chances are I'm just going to like reach for whatever matte is closest to that and closest to me, as opposed to digging in my collection for my ColourPop singles to use this one that I've had for 6 years and I've barely worn in many years. So I am going to declutter those three. And then from this group, we kind of have like a similar thing going on. The only one of those three that looks very impressive is Deimos, which I know I love, I've worn, and I'm excited about. So I feel like these two I can declutter, and I feel like that's damn good. Okay, I flipped it over from how it's been the entire video because it just seems like it fit better that way. But this is kind of like the mirror image of that all. I love doing this kind of thing because I feel like it makes me so much happier with my collection. This all feels like just fluff that was in there that was keeping me from using the shadows that I enjoyed more. And I think that all of these shadows are going to benefit from having these ones gone. There's only so much of like any one shade that I can possibly use. And now these can like get use from someone else who doesn't already have all of these. So that's exciting. I'm very pleased with how this turned out. Yeah. Okay, let me zoom in on my eyes because I don't know if you realized this in the intro, but I have two different shadows on my eyes. Here's another closer look, and I'll give you another second to consider them. So on this eye, I have Terra Moon's Big Bang, and on this eye, I have Cleona Verte. So I know we talked about this already during the video, but I think people do call these dupes, but I can see, having them both in my eyes, that Terra Moon's is a little bit shinier, and that's the better one for me. But damn, they're really similar, and I feel like if I hadn't pointed it out, like, you wouldn't notice. Unless you did. I don't know. But yeah, that's gonna be everything for today. If you enjoyed this, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. And there's always way more indie makeup content on the way. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.